Mainland-ish, as you just called it. Zach Dean, Chris Boyle. What is this show called again? Quick Slant, Quarantine Edition?
Yeah, quarantine slant.
Quarantine slant, or quick slant, a quick 6 feet slant. That's what we're doing this year.
That's right. We're safely apart. We're on opposite ends of the world.
You know what? I had a lot of time to think during this quarantine, and I'm almost positive that our studio back at the News Journal is where the coronavirus originated from. I'm almost positive.
Hazardous working conditions.
I will never go back in there without a hazmat suit. It's just not safe. Anyway, I'm Zach Dean. This is Chris Boyle, I think, over here, at least on my screen. I don't know if that's right or not, but you're to my left. We are back. It's week 1, kind of, for the high school football. I mean, we had college football on Saturday, the NFL on Sunday and Monday, and now we get our public schools back Friday. It's about a month late, but I don't care. Better late than never. I mean, my God, what a long 6 months this has been. Yeah,
it's kind of like, it's really kind of flown by in some respects, and it's also dragged in others. It's weird. Like, you almost lose the construct of time over quarantine. There's some days where I genuinely don't know what day it is. And the fact that I've been able to go out and see some practices over the last few days, realistically, it's one of the first times and only times during the course of this period where I've been able to leave my house. We've been working from home since March as the News Journal. So, we've essentially been kind of our own home offices for a while. So anytime we go out and see you guys in the community, it's it's a treat for us at this stage of the game, I think.
I've seen plenty of people at a couple local DeLand establishments, bars and restaurants, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that or not. So I might get them in trouble. So I'll just say
that's what the editing tool is for.
It's true. No, it's been great. Football practice. I mean, it's been weird because we've had such a quick turnaround. Usually we have, 2 or 3 weeks to kind of go out and see everybody and kind of figure things out. But it's like practice started last Monday for the public schools, and now it's game week already.
Right. And I think you're going to see some of that reflected. I mean, it's impossible to imagine that there won't be some sense of rust. There's going to be, I expect a lot of penalties. I think a lot of, you tend to favor the defenses to be further along and have the advantage where you're not going to have the timing and you're not going to have the sensibilities of just regular running an offense. It's especially teams that are installing a brand new offense, and we'll get to a couple of them in a minute. I think it's going to be very challenging considering the lack of overall time to prepare to play a game. And I also worry about the conditioning aspect of it. Yes, we've had the kids running in some cases since the end of June, but just being in shape and being ready for a 4-quarter football game is a lot different. You see guys cramping up in the first quarter or in the first halves and late in the first games every single year. And I just think it could get worse, especially for the teams without, big numbers on the sidelines.
The 2 teams with big numbers on the sidelines are Spruce Creek and Mainland. And I feel like this is a game that, has kind of been floated out there for years now about wanting these 2 teams to play. And then they played a spring a few years ago, and then just hasn't worked out for the regular season. But with the schedules all turned upside down this year, what better way to start the year than with Spruce Creek and Mainland? That game's at Creek. You're going to be there. I mean, holy cow, this is going to be fun, right?
Yeah, it's one of the positive aspects, I guess, if there is any, of the scheduling scramble that happened after the districts elected to move the season back 2 weeks. And some of those early season non-district games were caught up in the wash. A couple that come to mind right off the bat for me. Flagler Palm Coast was supposed to play Trinity Christian Academy out of Jacksonville. You've got Mainland was supposed to play Rockledge this year. There were some big games that were on the schedule that are just not going to happen anymore. Of course, DeLand and Seminole for a completely altogether different reason, with DeLand inactive this week because of their an assistant coach is testing positive for COVID-19 and putting their program on temporary shutdown. But Mainland and Creek, this is the first time they've played since 2014, and it'll be fun. I think they're 2 teams that we think very highly of. They're 2 teams that have been playoff regulars. Creek 3 of the last 4 years. Mainland 26 consecutive seasons they've made the playoffs. You'll see a different quarterback for Mainland this year in TJ Lockley, moving from wide receiver. He'll be the QB this year, like he was for 2 seasons at Father Lopez. The big question I've got with Creek is going to be the running back situation. I mean, Marvin Scott accounted for 55% of their carries last year. Their second leading rusher was Nick Cristiano, a quarterback who since graduated. So they're going to have a few guys carry the ball this season. It looks like Jaden Martin's going to be the lead guy, but from what it sounds like. But there are opportunities to be had. Key matchup I'm looking for, Mainland's secondary against Spruce Creek's receivers. Andy Price told you, and you can go more in depth about this, but he seems to be pretty excited about that receiving core.
Yeah, I think that's kind of your question was how to replace Marvin Scott's production, and I think it's going to be you're going to see more quick passing game out of Spruce Creek this year. Guys like Minkler, who I feel like is between him and his brother have been in the program for a decade now, which they kind of have.
It's a dynasty.
Hunter Schill, guys like that who he's excited about. Logan Garcia was a backup last year, but, played the whole Sanford Seminole game because Nick Cristiano was hurt. So he does have some experience. So, yeah, that matchup's going to be fun. The running backs for Creek will be a by committee situation. And I will say this, Andy Price for Spruce Creek told me that, and this was, I thought, a big statement. He said he thought this is one of the best defensive units he's had since he's been at Creek, which I think is saying a lot, seeing as a few years ago, Creek had the best defense in the area.
Yeah, that's very true. To me, I want to see the secondary for Mainland. I mean, this is a unit that took away the ball at will last year. They had 17 interceptions. In the season. They took a few of them back for touchdowns as well. 2 for RJ Turner, 1 for Lamondre Joe. You've got Charles Reed back there, who's a kid that's wanted by a handful of Division I programs in the safety spot. I think it's going to be a really tough defense. Mainland's expectations are very high of that unit. They've got 8 starters returning this season. To me, most notably, LaRon Davis up front, I think is a real difference maker, a player that can create pressure from the interior and from the edge if they, depending on where they line him up. So it'll be a really fun matchup. I think of all the games this week, that's to me the one I've definitely circled as the kind of the must-see matchup in Volusia County.
You're going Mainland, aren't you?
I'm going to take Mainland to win. I do think the experience on defense is going to be crucial. They do have a new defensive coordinator this year with Gary Meadows now at Deltona, but I think the talent they've got on that side of the ball, the fact of the matter is they do have that experience is going to come into play, I think, and chemistry is going to come into play in a big way early in the season with so much uncertainty.
Yeah, I agree. I think if this game was a month from now or towards the end of the year, I don't want to say I'd lean Creek, but I think it'd be more of a toss-up. But Mainland, that continuity this year, you hear it from everywhere you go, is so important. I mean, for these teams that bring back these players and coaches.
I'll say one thing about Spruce Creek, though. No team tends to wake up for these games more than they do. They are always prepared.
A few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the games they played last year against Flagler Palm Coast. They were leading at halftime. They wake up for these games. They are always prepared and they are always ready for a fight. So I'm not saying this is going to be an easy game whatsoever for Mainland. This is going to be a tough drag out game for a good portion, if you ask me.
You're going to be at that game. I'm going to be right down the road at Daytona Stadium. I've been there in, oh my gosh, almost a year now. I never thought I'd be so excited to go to Daytona Stadium, but I will take anything at this point. Deltona and Seabreeze. Seabreeze, I think, was our surprise team last year. Pat Brown turned that program around, I think, quicker than a lot of people thought, got them back to winning football games and looking respectable on the field. I think we both think that program can make a bigger jump in year 2 under him. And then Deltona. I mean, Jeff Smothers comes in. I talked to Deltona last week, went by their practice, was very impressed with what I saw. That program was not good last year, but I think this is going to be our most competitive game of the week. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, it's tough to predict. I do think Seabreeze, with the fact they've got 21 seniors, they've got a lot of guys back. I mean, I don't know if there's a team that's maybe in better position to kick on compared to where they were last year to where they could be this year than Seabreeze, just because you've got so many guys that know what it's about, that know the expectation, that know the system, that know the structure. I think Seabreeze could be in for a very good year. I really think they could be over 500. I mean, they were 5-5 last year. That when you're looking at 8 games, I think they realistically could be in about 5 or 6 of them. They've got impact players, particularly on defense. I really like Harold McKay, the pass rusher who's committed to Eastern Kentucky. J.J. Kelly had a particularly good year last year. E.J. Williams in the secondary. Colt Brown as a linebacker. Like they've got some guys there that can make some plays and are able to take the ball away and to make to shorten the field for the offense. The offense was all over the place last year.
Yeah.
In Seabreeze's 5 wins, they averaged 34.4 points per game last year. In their 5 losses, they scored a grand total of 14 points. So they've got to figure out like the consistency aspect of it. They like the talent they've got. They've got kind of a new group of skill guys with Amir Brown taking over at running back, Chris Lewis and Trey Phillips at wide receiver, Blake Boda, the quarterback. They like what they've got. They do have a couple of guys up front in the offensive line that were experienced players that were all area kids last year. So they look like they've got a chance here. And Deltona I'm fascinated by because you kind of and I want to know what you see in Jeff Smothers, because you seem that the way you described him was very youthful, very excitable, and you know, getting in there, mixing up in Oklahoma drills kind of will serve as an example of that.
I mean, he was like, at one point he got so close to an Oklahoma drill, like I thought he got his ACL taken out. Like, I mean, he fell down because like I think someone's leg whiplashed him, but it was just impressive. I mean, Deltona and obviously Alan Johnson, who's now at Pine Ridge, he had some good years there, especially in 2015. But that program last year just seemed to hit a wall. And you know, you walk up to practice last week and you have this new, young, youthful, high energy offensive coordinator from Hardy who comes over, and the practice, I mean, it just flowed. There was energy. There just seemed to be uniform, and, you know, they've got some good transfers at quarterback. You know, they bring back a lot of players on defense, and they bring back their defensive coordinator and Gary Meadows, who was huge for that program for so many years, and getting him back in there, I think is going to help. So I think Deltona is going to be a lot like Seabreeze last year. I think Deltona, they won 1 game last year. I could easily see them, you know, winning 4 or 5 games this year. I really could.
Yeah, the key for me is to start getting the most out of those guys they brought in from Pine Ridge. Chaz Williams has experience as a starting quarterback, just hasn't really been a lot of success. And I mean, you can attribute that to many different things. The fact that, you know, Pine Ridge hadn't had a lot of success at all over the last decade to begin with, but you know, you want to see some of those guys take a significant leap in playing big roles for them this year. And the one player I think is interesting, and a player I had in my breakout players list, is Anthony Atanda. Yeah,
they all talk very highly of him.
Wide receiver. Yeah, he played a little bit of linebacker too last year, but he's athletic. He's big. He's fast. You know, we'll see if they can protect long enough to let him get vertical. I think he's got a chance to maybe make a big play in this game.
Who are you going with?
I'm going to take Seabreeze. I think, again, to me, the biggest factor in some of these picks early in the year is going to be experience and continuity. I think that puts you so far ahead of the curve that it's really something you can't really measure. So to me, I think Seabreeze, with all of those players back, knowing what they want to be, knowing who they are, and having gone through an entire year and, you know, already established that culture change, I think that's going to set them up for success right out of the gate.
You're wrong. Deltona's winning. Next, Father Lopez and New Smyrna. I'm going Deltona. I'm telling you, I'm all aboard. All aboard, baby. Choo-choo. Lopez and New Smyrna Beach. New Smyrna Beach, another team, made a playoff run last year that I think caught us all off guard, but they were back in the playoffs under Wilkinson last year. Father Lopez, a team that's been in flux. They've had a couple different coaches in a couple different years now, and they've been competitive, but trying to get some stability under Lopez here this season. This, I think, is another game that it's going to come down to the fourth quarter, I think.
Yeah, New Smyrna, you know, they lost a lot of key pieces offensively. I went out there yesterday, actually, so it's a mostly new group. I mean, you see Omarion Brown and some players that are familiar. Cam Martell is going to be the unquestioned starter. He was kind of in and out of the lineup last year. So I think he's one guy.
Those your dogs barking right now?
Those are. This is the benefit now of quarantine
slants.
You'll hear my 2 dogs in the background. You might hear my 3-year-old making an appearance. I'm surprised he hasn't walked out the door yet. So definitely something that could happen here in the course of the film.
You might hear me cracking a Busch Light, although it's not 1 o'clock yet, though. So I got to wait at least 6 minutes.
So I think New Smyrna Beach, though, is going to be a team that's going to pride itself particularly on special teams. They've got a really good special teams unit. And I also think defensively, their secondary's got some real good players in it. Jeremy Mitchell, Jordan Bernard, a couple guys who are adept at taking the football away. And that might play right into the hands of Father Lopez this week. You know, Father Lopez likes to put it up and throw the ball. Andrew Aceable led the area in passing last year. One key missing piece for Lopez is Eddie Whipple. He's not there anymore. He was a big-time prospect for them. He's up at Ridgeview now, where former head coach Matt Knaus is. The one constant Lopez has had is Daniel Fish through this entire summer, which has been all over the place. You remember back at Thanksgiving, Chris Stevenson was the head coach. He's now the offensive coordinator at Trinity. Aaron Hankard was the head coach for a time. He's now an assistant at Flagler Palm Coast. Rocky Yoakum came out of retirement. He was the coach for about a month, and now that process fell apart. So Daniel Fish, this entire time, a young guy at only 26 years old, has been with the program. They wanted him to be the players want him to be the head coach. Here it is. This is his opportunity. And what better way to start your coaching career than going against a 4-time state champion in John Wilkinson?
Who are you going with? This is, I think, the toughest game to call of the week. I mean, there's just a lot of unknowns. You mentioned New Smyrna is a relatively new team after last year, and they made the playoff run. And Lopez, I mean, you're right. I mean, they've had 6 head coaches in like 6 months.
Right. I like New Smyrna. I think the numbers kind of favor them. I look at the depth of New Smyrna. I think that they will have enough to get by in this game. It's hard to tell with Lopez. Like they looked like they were going to turn a corner several times last year and then went in reverse. So, I mean, to me, I think they're a team to definitely keep an eye on, and a team that has some solid players at the 3A level, to where if they do, you know, assuming everybody chooses to play in the playoffs this year, you know, they realistically could be a fairly tough out by the time we get to November.
Quickly, for those who are still watching this, University, Winter Springs, right?
You got to get to the Potato Bowl, my friend.
Oh, my God, I did. And it's right there. You know what? It's because the first game on here is bolded, and then all the other ones are in tiny little font, and I couldn't figure it out. I just couldn't decipher. You're right. FBC, man, Travis. And Travis is the one who texted us and asked if we were going to have a quick slant video this week. So I'm sure he'll be thrilled to know that I forgot about them. FBC Matanzas.
FPC and Matanzas. I mean, to me, I think it's the most fun rivalry. It's all over the place. Like in terms of history, that you had, I think Flagler won the first 6, then Matanzas won the last, then Matanzas won 2, and Flagler's won the last 3, and they've really kind of taken charge in that rivalry.
Winning one is putting it lightly. They've all been running clocks, haven't they?
Most of them, yeah. The last couple of years.
Two, yeah.
The last 2 years have been significant wins for Flagler. New head coach at Matanzas this year, Matt Forrest. You know, we talked about dramatic shifts in culture and philosophy and approach. I can't see a more different style than what they're going to do over at Matanzas this year, where you go from the flexbone option under Don Matthews to the air raid under Forrest. They're going to spread it out. They're going to have 4 receivers out there. They're going to try to get that lighten up the boxes and try to run the ball up the middle. But you know, Flagler, I don't think Flagler's, you know, necessarily the type of team that where you want to,
good luck,
you know, where you want to go with a completely different philosophy right out of the gates. It's going to be a tough matchup. There is one player at Matanzas, I think that even Travis Rowland would admit, you know, can give them some problems. That's Noah Cundiff. It's 6'2", averaged 30 yards a catch last year. If Matanzas' line can give Ethan DiTilio and you know, and or any of the other quarterbacks they may put out there, if they give him the time to sit back there and throw it, Cundiff can win these battles. You know, Cundiff can go up there and get the football. For Flagler, Preston Roberts, I think, is poised for a huge year. I think as a pure passer, I think he's the best around here. Chris Parks is a really speedy running back and can easily hit the 1,000-yard mark. You know, over a 10-game season, I think he'll probably end up around 750, 800 if he stays healthy and they they stick with it. So I think Flagler, you know, we know what they are. We know Flagler can get through the regular season and be a perennially really good team in this area. Can they take that next step in the evolution of their program and get over the hump and become a real playoff threat by the time November rolls around? For Matanzas, I think the goal this year to set the standard to really kind of click in that air raid game by the time midseason rolls around. And there are games I think that they're going to be in better position in the near future. They've got Atlantic, I think, in week 2, which is another team that's going through an entirely different offseason. So I think this is going to be a tough game for Matanzas, but I do think that they will trend upwards as the year goes on and they get more familiar with this new style.
Yeah, FPC, it's all about building towards the playoffs. Matanzas, it's about building that foundation, essentially. So it's two programs that are going in different directions. Doesn't mean that Matanzas is going in a bad direction. They're just not, they're just on different levels right now.
It's just, to me, it's just such a big change.
Yeah.
That I don't know whether the first game is not a fair barometer of that.
No.
Like, let's be completely fair to Matanzas. Whatever happens on Friday, win, lose, draw. I mean, it's not going to be.
If they win, it's a fair barometer. I'll give them that.
Whatever happens, I think we're looking for more a mid-season expectation on Matanzas, just so we know how that whole system is going to work and fit the players that are around them.
I don't know when this Zoom call is going to stop recording, so you have to do these quickly. University and Trinity Christian, talk about them. Trinity Christian first because they're undefeated, baby. Let's go.
They are 2-0. They're the only team that's gotten a win in the area so far. They haven't allowed an offensive point in 8 quarters.
That'll work.
I've really been impressed by Eli Lindemann, the linebacker there, senior, 1 of 8 on the roster. I think he has 7.5 tackles for loss already. Fumble recovery in the end zone to put the finishing touches on their win on Friday. They've got some solid players. I mean, they've gone through some injuries. They lost Marvin Reyes to a broken collarbone. They were without Jakyron Hawkins this past week with a shoulder injury, but he could be back as early as Friday. So far, so good for them. I mean, they've done a nice job defensively, and they've gotten better as the game has worn on offensively. And a couple of big 4th downs in week 1, some touchdown passes by Brady Benton helped them get over the hump. As for University, they open with Winter Springs. I think University is poised for a solid year.
I'm going to see them today. We're airing this on Tuesday. I'm going to see them in about 3 hours. I'm excited. I haven't seen them in a while.
Yeah, so they really love to run the ball, and they've got a new quarterback in Taz Figueroa that's going to be more their traditional wing-style quarterback. I like Jalen Brown and Chandler Powers as options to run the football. The secondary should be better. Christian Kennick was an all-area kid last year, a defensive end. They've got nice pieces, and Winter Springs is completely rebuilding. They were a playoff team a year ago. They have a new coach. They have only have 4 returning starters. So this is a good opportunity for University to get off on a positive note. It's their first home opener in school history. Cool. I think they're gonna go out there and celebrate it with a victory.
Tighten up, baby. You're going to be at Mainland and Spruce Creek.
That's right.
I'm going to be at Deltona and Seabreeze. Thank goodness. I mean, I never will take advantage of a football Friday or complain about a football Friday. I will complain about them, but
you will. Don't lie to the people.
That's only a few weeks. I won't this week. I promise. I am looking forward to Friday. Can't wait to see everybody out there. Hope I think most of
about 20% of the people out there.
Yeah, we're going to see which is really going to hurt that Mainland Creek game. Because I tell you what, when Creek wants to fill a stadium, boy, can they fill a stadium. So,
yeah, they sure can.
It would have been fun to see what that would have looked like with a full crowd, but hey, we'll take what we can get. Follow us on Twitter, Zach Dean, DBNJ, Chris Boyle, DBNJ. We're going to get the Facebook page back up and running strong this week. Want everybody to keep contributing like you did last year. If you're at a game, let us know what the score is. Anything helps, obviously. Follow him at Mainland Creek. I'll be at Deltona Seabreeze. We'll see you Friday night, guys. Let's go. Week 1-ish. Quarantine slants in the book. We will see you Friday.
Stay healthy, everyone.
Stay healthy.